Good evening and welcome back to the Third Tier Show. It's really good to be back, and what a week of League One action it's been. There's been goals, there's been drama, there's been a lot of the form book being thrown out the window. So join us as we discuss everything in League One this week. Tonight we're joined by three special guests, and we'll start with Ben. Ben, welcome back. You've had a decent week, hitting some form in the good time. Hitting form before your two big games this week. How are you?
I'm very good, Tom, and two very good wins, and I can't wait to discuss it with you three gentlemen. A fine weekend of football in action.
Good. Another cap in the feather goes to Matt. Matt, how are you? Another two wins this week, so a good week for the Gills and yourself.
Yeah, all positive. Can't complain at all. Two wins, two different performances, but two good ones in various ways, and 6 goals. Yeah, and back into the top half of the table. So yeah, can't complain at all. Thank you.
Yeah, I caught your game on Saturday, and you were really impressive. So I think you described it as your sort of best sort of game this season. So it was a good game for me to pick to watch. And this week we're joined by a special guest as our attention turns to Sunderland. Welcome Jimmy, who joins us from the very popular Roker Report. Jimmy, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having me. I'm stunned that you managed to find 2 other fans at sport clubs that got 6 points this week. Like, what are the chances? I'm on cloud 9, just like the other 2 boys.
Unlike someone in this room.
Yeah, I don't know who that is, but two equalisers against us. Both deserve to be fair, as probably the Blackpool fans will join in and explain we weren't fantastic in the 2 games, but we still didn't lose. I'll take that. For those that don't know, tell us about the Roker Report and sort of the role you have with them.
Well, the Roker Report's a long-running fanzine. It's been going for the best part of 10 years now. It started off mainly as a sports blog. From there, it's evolved. This is season 5 of us having our very own snazzy podcast that just continues to expand and evolve. And yes, it's a website that does a bit of everything. My role within the site has changed and developed. I've done a bit of everything for them. So I started off as the match report guy. I moved on to do a lot of podcasts with them. I still do the podcast with them. And I'm probably best known for doing player ratings. So you've probably got public enemy number 1 on the show as far as it goes. But yeah, the Roker Report's a sports blog that just continues to evolve and go. And we've developed quite a little following for ourselves, which we're all very proud of.
Yeah, I was taking a look at sort of, obviously we all know about the Roker Report. It's very popular sort of on Twitter and across sort of the footballing platform. I was taking a look, the content sort of you release every day is out of this world, and the quality of it is phenomenal. So it's really good to see. How many people?
I wish I had quite a little following of 37,000.
How many sort of fans do you have, or what sort of people on the Roker Report?
I think we're right about at 50 now. I think we've got 4 editors, maybe 15 to 30 podcast contributors, and then maybe another 15 to 30 people that specialize on the web. And then you get people like me who do a bit of everything. But yeah, no, it's a right little army. I mean, I think we kind of went up a level when we did the podcasts with the owners, and that really put us on the radar of more people. They obviously created a bit of a buzz. They were huge stories in the area. They were national stories to a lesser extent. And from there, we were really able to expand. And it's a well-oiled machine. Gav, who runs the site, puts in hours and hours of work, and yeah, we've got our weekly running features. We know exactly what we're doing for every match day, and it's a juggernaut. It's a juggernaut. It's this really sort of good thing that we've established there to give Sunderland fans the coverage that really we don't get sort of from the national local newspapers.
Yeah, I don't think many clubs sort of get that amount of coverage. Obviously, you have your local gazettes, etc. But for the Sunderland fans, you're such a big fan base. It's just incredible to see such a well-established forum for you guys to sort of communicate on, and it's above and beyond anything I've seen. I don't know if Matt or Ben's seen any different with any other clubs, but for me, it's certainly the biggest one I've probably ever seen.
The one frustrating thing is we're probably about as big as we can be without Sunderland being good again. So that's the main thing now, is that we kind of bumping right up against that ceiling that we can't reach unless Sunderland become a top 10 club again, and that's that's still a little while away. Hence me being on the third tier pod. But that's, I think, the only way we can really take it on and do more things with it, apart from YouTube, which is something we don't really do, is if the club just gets better. If there's just more appetite for Sunderland because the team's winning more.
And do you think, obviously, this year with your aspirations, do you not think even being in the Championship is going to have an impact on the Roker Report itself?
We'll see. I mean, that's the big question with Sunderland. I mean, we went from averaging 38,000 a week to all of a sudden in League One we're at 28. It's like, how do you get those other 12 back? How do you get people caring again? The last owners, for all their flaws, found ways to get people engaged in the club, whether it was sort of at Boxing Day, getting the records, getting that nearly at capacity then, whether it was at the first Wembley final of the 2 Wembley finals, which sold out so easily. It's one of those where it's hard to say how do you sort of capture lightning in the bottle. How many people are going to want to go back to football after being starved of it for over a year? It's all up in the air, really. All we can really hope is that Lee Johnson continues to deliver attacking football, because it's not really something that we've been blessed with even since going down to League One. So if he can get the team playing, if Krill Dreyfus, the new owner, can inspire us as well, that will definitely kick things up a gear. It all depends. It all depends how we do between now and the end of the season. It all depends who we sign in the summer and what division we're playing in. It's all up in the air at the moment. But it's exciting that I'm even talking to you about promotion, because if you'd had me on 2 months ago, that would have seemed like a distant dream, really.
So we're going to talk about sort of results and how they've changed in sort of recent weeks and months, especially in comparison to last season. Every week we like to focus on sort of the Guesters team, of course, and your recent form has been incredible. So talk to us about your last 5 results. You've obviously had 5 wins in 6, some big wins against Doncaster, Burton, a lovely win against Fleetwood, a draw against Crewe, beat Swindon, and obviously finishing off with a win against Rochdale. So talk to us about your recent form, because you're flying at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's very strange, because we're maybe not playing as well now as we were 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it feels like we're getting results, we're beating teams without being anywhere near as good as we can be. So you can look at that 2 ways. You can say, if we don't pick up our level of performance, the good run's going to stop and we're going to crash down and we're going to be talking about a playoff team. Or you can look at it the other way and say, we've got a defensive crisis at the moment. We've got one fit senior centre-back, and even he's a 21-year-old on loan from Wolves. It's really exciting, because we're playing okay. We're just about getting the better of these games at the moment, but we know that there's another level we can reach. We know that we can play a lot better than what we are playing. So it's just exciting that things look as if they might just be about to click into gear at the right time. Because I mean, I don't know if there's any Rochdale fans on the channel, but they must have been scratching their heads as to how we were 2-0 up against them on at the weekend, because we scored the early goal and then we just gave them the impetus. Jordan Jones produced a bit of magic and it's 2-0 and the game's over. But it's interesting, because there's been signs and there's been times under Lee Johnson where we've looked better than we ever have done at League One, and that hasn't really happened recently. And we've been getting by a bit on the overall talents we've got, on the individual talents of players like Aidan McGeady, players like Charlie White, rather than looking as good as a cohesive attacking unit as we have at other times in the season.
Ben, you got a question?
Yeah. My question is, obviously, McGeady's come back in, and I thought he was excellent against us. His assist, and every time he got on the ball, he just oozes danger. Charlie White, over 20 goals now. My question is, what do you fans believe that McGeady was this bully? Do you think he was being isolated out and treated unfairly? Because we had that with Kyle Dempsey at Fleetwood. He was frozen out, and now he's at Gillingham doing well. Do you think now Lee Johnson's come in, just that one move by bringing McGeady in, that could bring you just promotion really now? Because it's like the Son and Kane of the League One with White and McGeady at the moment.
I completely agree. He absolutely could be the difference. I mean, his performance against Doncaster was insane. He rolled back the years. He looked like a Premier League player. I think the break's done him good. Like I remember, he to win the free kick for our first goal at the weekend, he whizzes by a fullback in his 20s. I remember thinking, if he didn't have those sort of 9 months of not playing football, would he still have had the energy levels to do that? And I kind of think the break might have done him good. In terms of him being frozen out, it's complicated. It's really tough because Sunderland are a team. When you sort of look at the things that have gone wrong for us, one of the major ones, really going back for the last 10, 12 years, has been having players on big money that don't really want to be at the club, having players that are kind of at Sunderland doing us a favour. Like Roy Keane mentions that in his autobiography, and sort of talking about signing players from Tottenham who felt like they were taking a step down to come to Sunderland. So I always have sympathy with a manager who was trying to sort of address our dressing room culture, address problems within the group, because it's something that's been a problem for Sunderland for a long time. But then equally, it's very complex, because you look at a guy like Aidan McGeady, a guy who's played in the Champions League, a guy who's won trophies. If he's telling you that you're not good enough, that you're not playing well enough, that you don't have the right mentality, he's probably got a point, because he's been there and done it. If he's telling you that your attitude's not good enough to get promotion out of League One, he's probably someone you want to be listening to. So, I mean, I have sympathy for Parkinson for leaving him out. I kind of understand what he was trying to do, but then equally, we've got so much better. We've got so much better with him in the team. He is running for Lee Johnson. Lee Johnson is getting a tune out of him. So I think Johnson deserves credit as much as anything else.
Yeah, his stats sort of speak for themselves. I think he's got 11 assists, 2 goals. I was looking earlier, his pass accuracy is, I think, about 81%. At any level, you just know you've got a baller on the park that can and make you tick over. So for me, he's someone you couldn't be without, and 11 assists just speaks for itself. It's phenomenal. What would you say the difference is between now and last season? Is it the change of a change of a few things amongst the club, or has something just ticked this year, or is it just different players playing? So what would you put it down to?
It's like I said earlier, with our recent form not being great, what we have seen under Lee Johnson is that he's got a capacity to put a team out there that can create chances, to put a team out there that can press. We just look much better attacking unit than we did under our last 2 managers, under Jack Ross, under Phil Parkinson. We're going at teams, we're really attacking them, and it looks like there's more goals in the team. So, and maybe as well, with this being the empty stadium season, with this being the Saturday-Tuesday season, we've got a big squad, and we're seeing fatigue in other teams. We're seeing maybe a lack of effort from other teams, and then we're able to skate by because we've got 18 to 20 players, and other teams maybe have 8 to 11 good players. That's probably making a big difference as well. But I think the main difference is that we just look like a better coached, better attacking team than we have done in the other 2 years, where there was almost more a fear of failure than a real impetus to attack and score goals. So I think Lee Johnson deserves a lot of credit for improving the mentality at the club.
Yeah, he's certainly a manager that brings in results. And like you say, if you're winning games and playing how you are, then it just bodes well for your next sort of run of games if you can sort of step up your performances, that's for sure. Let's talk about your league position then. You're fourth in the table, 2 games in hand over Hull, but as do Peterborough, Lincoln and Doncaster. Doncaster got another 2 games in hand over you, and they're 2 points off. So are the performances worrying you a little bit in terms of, if we don't take advantage of the chances we have, we could be slipping down? Or are you more optimistic to think we've got 2 games in hand, we should be sort of pushing for automatic?
I'm quietly confident. It's one of those where you never want to be overly confident, and we've seen from our first season in League One how quickly things can go wrong, and how very quickly things can change, and how all it takes is one bad week of results and you're out of it. But I'm quietly confident. We've won a lot of games. We're playing with 1 senior centre back at the moment. It feels like if we get either Bailey Wright back or Tom Flanagan back, all of a sudden you're going to have a really ominous team that's perfectly primed for the promotion push. Really, I'm kind of looking at it as that, no disrespect to Doncaster and Lincoln, especially with Lincoln's recent form, I'm kind of looking at being 2 out of 3 between us, Posh and Hull. and it's really probably going to come down to the head-to-head games against those teams, and then just no slip-ups, no more poor performances away from home, no more ugly Tuesday night draws. It's going to be about grinding out the games like we have been doing recently, then also maybe finding a better level in our games on the Saturdays.
Okay, you mentioned sort of your form players and only having one fit centre back. With obviously talking about Wyke and McGeady, one sort of player that's got a lot of attention recently is Sanderson. Talk to me about him, because he looks a phenomenal prospect, and he scored again on Saturday. Didn't always scored on Saturday. I don't know if he scored more than one. I haven't checked, to be fair, so apologies about that. Yeah, but he scored Saturday, and it just sort of tops off his current sort of purple patch just going for at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's brilliant, and I'm sure you boys, sort of having followed League One for longer than me, will be aware of this. Sometimes you just see a player, and it's like, I don't know if he's a Premier League player, but I know he's definitely too good for League One. He's just got a bit of everything. He's technically brilliant. He likes defending as well, which you wouldn't necessarily think for a defender who's come from Wolves, but he likes getting stuck into tackles. He's really good in the air, like you saw for his goal at the weekend. Yeah, technically excellent, brilliant passer, can do a bit of everything, physically strong for his age, quick. He shouldn't be playing in League One. People have been comparing it to when we had Johnny Evans going up from the Championship, and it was just like, well, this guy shouldn't be here. We're so lucky to have him, because he's just a great player that's going to be playing at a higher level for the rest of his career. Really, this will be his one stint in League One, because he's just way too good for the level.
On that subject, get your comments in. It'd be interesting to see who you've had at your club who's too good to be at League One level. I know we had Drewsbury Hall from Leicester. He's at Luton this year, last year, and he was an absolute cheat code at League One. And even this year, we've got Ballard from Arsenal, centre back, who looks level above League One. And Kevin Stewart, who used to be at Liverpool, got him from Hull. He looks just a player who's well established at sort of Championship level. So, Ben, anyone that you've had at Fleetwood, sort of, just sort of above League One level?
I'm not going to go obviously for the Vardy, because I think that's obviously the obvious candidate, isn't it? Two spring to mind. Ben Davies on loan a couple of years ago, and came in January. He was unbelievable. He scored against Millwall, which confirmed our place in the playoffs under Uwe Rosler. And then we obviously went to Gills on the last day, won 3-2, if Matt remembers that one. And then we've had Charlie Taylor on loan as well, and he was on loan from Leeds at the time, and this is the year that we went up from League 2 to League 1. He was just unbelievable. The amount of penalties he won, the amount of assists that he got, just the way he defended, and it was like, he wasn't League One standard, he was high Championship standard. And James used another point. Harry Shute was another one that was on loan for the last 18 months, now in the Championship. And Lewis Gibson as well, on loan last year, now in the Championship at Reading. So 3 or 4 players there that have got undersuited amount of talent, really, that we've had on loan. They're just too good for us, but needed to find the way again, and that's what they've done.
Matt, what about you?
Probably, if you're looking at this year's squad, Jordan Graham is levels above League One, and I've said it plenty of times. It's not like he even has to work that hard to beat left backs or beat right backs. It's generally just a step over and a drop of the shoulder. And 9 times out of 10, he's getting to the byline and getting balls into the box. And I think if it wasn't for an ACL injury a couple of years ago, he'd still be in the Championship and probably playing he could even have been playing in the Premier League, such as how well Wolves have done over the last couple of years. But yeah, certainly middle of the Championship, I think, without that injury. And Cole Dempsey's another one. He's played in the Championship, but if we're going back probably last season, I was very surprised when Alfie Jones only went to Hull, because he was absolutely superb last year for us in a holding midfield role on loan from Southampton. And I think maybe, no disrespect to sort of, clubs of Gillingham's, Fleetwood size, that type of thing, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. I think if it wasn't a Hull or a Sunderland or a Portsmouth type that came in for Alfie Jones, I think he'd have probably gone Championship this season as well. But obviously it's weird because of COVID and salary caps and that as well. It's probably changed everything.
Absolutely. So Jimmy, just to sort of ask, other than Sanderson and the ones we've mentioned, who else has been your sort of form players, or who ones that have gone under the radar in terms of headlining big performances?
That's a good question. We're still trying to figure out midfield. Max Power deserves a lot of credit for suddenly becoming a right back. Depending on the week, Lyndon Gooch is either our best or worst player. So there's been times in that run, like the game against Burton Albion, where he was amazing, and there's been other games where you're pulling your hair out, like begging for the manager to take him off. So he's been really up and down. Yeah, Power's done well, sort of moving to right back and playing his best football for Sunderland really since he first got it. And yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because we're still figuring out the midfield. We keep on getting injuries to our defenders. Lee Burge, who's been very up and down, has been excellent in the last couple of games. It's weird, yeah, because we've gone on this run and it still feels like Lee Johnson's figuring stuff out on the fly. It feels like he still has very little idea what his best team is, or maybe he does know what his best team is, what our best formation is, and he just can't play it because we've got too many players hurt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's nice to in some ways not know who your sort of best 11 is, or not say your best 11, but your best players as well with the league position you're in. Just moving on, is there any sort of interesting club news that's been happening recently, or has it just been ticking along kind of nicely?
I mean, the sale's still a massive one. I know that was sort of confirmed a few weeks ago, but it's still kind of weird and kind of novel to see a French billionaire sat spending his early 20s watching football matches in an empty stadium of light. That's still a massive one, really, where you're just kind of like, why is he here? What's he going to do? And that's still a really sort of exciting unknown. How much money is he going to spend? What is our ceiling whilst we've got him? That's one that's really sort of got us all excited.
Okay, talking about excitement, everyone was quite excited when you appeared on a certain show. And Matt's got a question for you. Might be a bit long-winded, but go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, Jimmy, obviously, because we've all seen the two series of the Netflix documentary. The first one was obviously the falling out of the Championship, when I think, is it fair to say that everybody thought you was going to be going straight back up or at least competing in the Championship, and it didn't quite work out. But I rewatched the second season over the weekend, and the main one was, I wanted to say that firstly, it was so well put together. I don't know if fans of other teams, maybe Ben and Tom, can answer this as well if they've seen it. I almost found myself becoming emotionally invested in Sunderland, and I shouldn't, because I'm a Gillingham fan, but because it was so well put together, and despite the fact that you knew it was what was coming, unfortunately, because I've watched it now twice, the second season, and obviously you're still praying in the Checker Trade Trophy that you're going to win on penalties, and the captain Catamole's not going to miss, and then you're praying that Patrick Bauer slaps it over the bar at Wembley in the playoff final. But unfortunately, like I say, it's a little bit like a car crash in slow motion. But what did you fans of it think of it when you watched it back? Because obviously you must have been aware of it when it was being filmed and set up. But do you think Sunderland as a club and a fan base came out of it better, or do you think people saw it in a more negative light? Because for me, I think it showed you fans, particularly, in a really positive light. And I think since then, I've gone, Sunderland deserve a lot better than what they're getting. And I mean, you can talk about Stuart Donald and Charlie Methven if you want, but we might need a whole new podcast for that.
Yeah, you've hit sort of the nail on the head, really, in the sense that on one hand, you're thinking, this is a brilliant advert for Sunderland. Like, I mean, that taxi driver, that guy's just made for TV. In like 10 minutes, like he's just the perfect character. You're just instantly like, oh yeah, I'm on his side. But I remember watching that second season and thinking, why isn't he on more? Why aren't we getting more of Peter the taxi driver? This guy's brilliant. But yeah, I think sort of as somebody who sort of both my parents are from Sunderland, I lived in Sunderland until I was 6. The thing I've never really seen in other places I've lived is the way the whole city comes to life when Sunderland are playing. Yeah. Less so now as we've gone down the divisions, but I felt like the documentary did a great job of sort of really establishing why Sunderland Football Club means so much to people, how you can get a fifth of that city in the stadium on one weekend to watch a game at 3:00 on Saturday. And it did a really, really good job of sort of showing why Sunderland matters to so many people, why we do have the potential to be a top 10 Premier League club and maybe even more. And it was brilliant for that reason. But then at the same time, you're pulling your hair out. I think I knew going in that Stuart Donald was going to make a tit out of himself. I knew going in that the Will Grigg episode was going to make me angry. But it's one thing.
Yeah, I was going
it's
to
one
ask you
thing,
about that as well.
It's one thing knowing that, and it's another thing actually watching it. And you're like, really? That's really how it panned out. That's how little thought really went into it. That's how much he let his impulses get the better of him. And it's just really frustrating because like I said, Matt, I know what's going to happen in the 2 games at Wembley. Watching that was even more painful. Watching that episode, it was honestly, it turned your stomach. It made you feel a bit sick. Just like, this isn't how a football club should be being run, especially so recently when we know so much about what football clubs should and shouldn't do and how he's successful.
And one last thing about the series as well, because one player that was highly sort of involved in the first couple of episodes of the series was young Josh Madger. And it sort of became even more ironic to me that he went and chucked 3-4 million at Will Grigg, yet wouldn't give Josh Madger the contract he wanted, which I'd imagine would have been a lot less at the time. Do you think now seeing him playing, and I mean, he won at Anfield at the weekend for Fulham, if he'd stayed, would you have won promotion?
It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say because
only on the premise that he was absolutely flying when he left in the January. I think he got 12, 15 goals.
amazing.
I mean, he scored at our place and was brilliant, to be fair to him, that night when you bought about 3,000 down to the Priestfield on a Tuesday evening.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was because I just remember sun shining. Start of the season, we win 4-1. You're just thinking, this League One stuff's mint. This is gonna be brilliant. But I don't know. I remember like there was a lot of noise around the time he left with sort of the analytics guys and a lot of the XG guys being like, well, this Sunderland run can't keep on going because we're relying so much on Madger's individual brilliance, on McGeady's individual brilliance. It's almost as if it was the house of cards that fell apart when he left. And I do wonder whether that might have happened anyway, because I mean, the guy's an incredible finisher. Like the goal he had disallowed last week, that guy just knows how to put the ball in the net. Maybe would have made it. Maybe that would have been the difference. I still don't know. I still don't know because I didn't have that much faith in Jack Ross, and I didn't have that much faith in where the team was going. I don't know if it would just still have been playoff heartbreak, but maybe we're a slightly better team. But I mean, the contracts thing with Grigg is just honestly, it still hurts because we're still paying him, and now he's scoring goals again for MK Dons. It's mad.
With questions here, one on the screen from Derek. With the new owner, is Premiership a real possibility again now?
You'd have to say so in the long term. Like you have to, but how soon? I don't know, because this is obviously something you boys will be aware of. The gap's huge between League One and the Championship. I think we've seen now with Barnsley and Luton, the teams that went up the first year we went down, sort of how you do it, how you can gradually build. If you've got the right culture, if you've got the right manager, how you can sort of climb up that Championship table. But it's definitely a possibility. Just the thing we have to do is be patient. We have to build the right way. We have to make sure we're bringing the right players in. We have to sort of put faith in Lee Johnson, hopefully, that he's going to be the manager that can stay with us for the next 3-4 years, and that we can slowly but surely build a team that means that, as much as I love coming on a show like this, and I've been very impressed with what you boys are doing, that I don't have to speak on the third tier pod again, because it's not going to be a case of someone being in the third tier. So I definitely think it's a possibility, but it would have to be a sort of slowly but surely thing. If it's going to take 5 years, it takes 5 years.
Really important question in from Gav here. Ask Jimmy who his favourite Roker Report editor is, please.
Well, Gav's the man. Gav's the man. Gav's the one who hired me, so I've got to show him some love. Otherwise, it mightn't be Jimmy from the Roker Report anymore. So top work from him. Good to know that he's listening.
We've got a couple of questions in that got sent to us sort of beforehand. So how does life in League One compare to the Premier League? What's better and what do you think is worse?
The only thing I'd say is better is it kind of feels like you're in on your own little secret. Like, I'm in so many WhatsApp groups where we talk about football, and Sunderland will have lost like 2-1 to Shrewsbury and no one will have even looked. So you just kind of get away with it. You can kind of skate free under the radar. So it's good to sort of learn about managers, learn about players that I otherwise wouldn't have heard of that are really good or that have real talent. And it's kind of been cool to tick off a few new grounds that I'd never been to before. Like, I don't think I'd been to Priestfield before. I'd definitely never been to Accrington Stanley's ground before. So it's been good to visit the other places. The main thing you miss is just, it's tricky because, like, I'd say the coverage, but the whole reason I'm talking to you and the whole reason I got involved with Roker Report is because Sunderland's coverage wasn't good enough when it should have been in the Premier League. We were like, 5 minutes on match of the day and whatever. So I think the main thing is it nags away at you that you support a club that has the potential to be a top 10 Premier League club that's sort of underperforming. As much as you might enjoy seeing the new players, watching different teams, it's always going to eat away at you that you could be watching a better standard of football than you really would be if the club had been better ran in the last 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of questions in from the producer of the show, John. Do you think your squad depth is going to be enough to put you in the automatic promotion spots?
I think if we do go up, that'll be one of the major reasons why. I mean, the game against Crewe, which we should have lost, Jordan Jones comes off the bench and scores one of the best goals I've seen in the last 5 years. He just rifle ones into top corner. And I just don't think there's other teams in League One that have that kind of depth. I know that Peterborough typically, in years past, have had a good bench. I know that Portsmouth have a few very good players that come off their bench. But I think that's our real advantage, is that because we spend all this money on players and because maybe that's caused us problems in the last 2 years trying to work out what our best team is, that is something that's really going to help us, especially in this year where it's so many games. There's like where nobody's getting any rest, where you're going to be without players for all sorts of different reasons. I think if we do go up, we'll probably look back and say, thank God that we had Jack Diamond as our 17th best player. Thank God we had a fifth centre-back we could call upon who didn't look out of place at this level. But yeah, no, that should. If we do go up, I think I'll be talking a lot about squad depth.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for getting your questions in, guys. And if you've got any more, please keep sort of putting them in the chat and we'll try and get to them eventually. But I'm going to pass you over now to Ben, who's going to go through sort of the madness that is the results that have been in League One. Over to you, Ben.
Cheers, Tom. And yeah, some mental results in League One over the last few weeks, really. And seeing Gillingham beat MK Dons 3-2, I thought, good win for a decent MK Dons side that like to pass it. Their style of play does come into question. And I was looking at some statistics, actually. MK Dons this season have completed over 14,000 passes in League One, and it can bore you into submission sometimes, like they did with Fleetwood. And the next team below that, 11,000 passes in Doncaster, who played 2 less games. So a brilliant result for Gillingham, and, just shows you possession doesn't win football. Wigan losing 1-0 to Charlton. Charlton on a iffy run right now, struggling towards the bottom. In the bottom 6 of form, really. Ipswich winning 2-1. I thought that was a great result for them away from home. Blackpool 1-1, decent Crewe side that are, slipping out a bit, only 1 win in 6, but a decent point. Again, conceding late, that won't do Blackpool any favours. Burton, doing research into them. 9 games he's been there now. He's won 7, 5 clean sheets, really improved the defence. You've got Hemming scoring goals. You've got, Smith coming through again and scoring goals, and a great 1-0 win, keeping a clean sheet against newly revived Joey Barton's side. Doncaster, great result. Portsmouth, good, decent side. Although I think it's time on Kenny Jackett, in my opinion. I think he's got to go personally. Hull 2-0. Go to the top of the league now against a decent Rochdale side on Tuesday. Fleetwood go to Lincoln, win 2-1, outplay them. Came on here last week. No hope, no fight, no belief, and turned it round. Northampton, 2 good results this week. 2-0 over Plymouth, 4-1 over Portsmouth, which I'll get into shortly. And then Oxford, Peterborough away. Peterborough do struggle away from home. This year, 38 of their 62 points have come on the road and at home, and they struggled away. They've only lost 1 game at home, that was to Blackpool back in November. Lost 7 away. So just shows you they're losing to likes of Burn, Shrewsbury, Wimbledon, Crewe, Accrington Stanley, Sunderland, and Portsmouth being the other one. So they need to improve away. Sunderland, another great win. Shrewsbury 1 each against Wimbledon. So some very decent results on Tuesday, I thought, Tom.
Yeah, it was just mad. And I think last Monday you said I've never been so confident that we're going to lose 3 points against Lincoln. And and all fairness to Fleetwood, they turned up and they caught, I think, Lincoln probably at the right time in some respects, but you'll probably talk a bit more about performance. But to go 2-0 up and control the game, and yes, you conceded sort of a late, well, it was a route one goal, wasn't it? But no, it was a very decent win for you, and it was in some ways good to see Northampton sort of have a bit of fight and spice up that bottom a bit, because they've had an absolute cracking week and probably the best week in my opinion.
I agree with you there, Tom. I think, you look at the results from Saturday as well, and 4-1 win over Portsmouth, 4-0 after 37 minutes was it? Unbelievable. And then Gillingham beating Ipswich Town. Matt, great result, 2 back-to-back wins, scoring 3 goals. Gills in the playoffs. I remember you were saying how they were doing really well in and around the playoffs these last 10 to 12 games. How good were Gillingham the other day, Matt?
Yeah, Gills, we were as good as we've been all season, and I tweeted that out immediately after the game when I tweeted at full time and said, for me, it's the best performance of the season. I mean, we've gone to Charlton and won, we've gone to Portsmouth and drawn, we've gone to Sunderland and drawn, we've dismantled Crewe, we've dismantled Rochdale at various times in the season. But in terms of, new manager bounce, if that is really a thing, the fact that Ipswich were 5 unbeaten prior to kick-off, they'd won 3 on the bounce and they'd beaten good sides. It weren't like they were beating teams down the bottom, but we could have been 2-0 up after 10 minutes. That was the start that we had. We scored really early, which helped settle us down, which was good because it meant Ipswich had to come and play, and we was able to exploit it. But just going back to that MK Dons one last Tuesday as well, I know you mentioned about how many passes they completed this season, but they completed 594 passes against us and we completed 105, but 306 of them were between their back three and their keeper. So like you said, it means absolutely nothing if you're just playing it across the edge of your own box. And we had to find a way. And I said right at the beginning of the pod, it was 2 very different good performances. And I felt like you after 10 minutes against MK Dons. I think we'd had 9% possession, Ben, and I thought we're in for a long night here and this could end up 2 or 3-0 if we don't pull our finger out. But credit Ryan Jackson, he went down injured and we managed to change it around and we got higher up and we pressed them high and stopped them from playing out. And then their keeper suddenly kept kicking everything into touch. And then we got ourselves in front and probably could have gone 3-1 up, but then switched off. And that's been an issue we've had all season, not so much recently, but certainly in the first half of the campaign. And yeah, going in at 2-2, we thought, you're frustrated because 6 minutes injury time in the first half is really unheard of. But credit the boys, second half come out, we were solid, stuck to our game plan, and we took our big chance when it came along. And it wasn't until right in the last couple of minutes, I think, that Jack Bonham made a decent save. And yeah, I think we probably just about deserved it because goals win games at the end of the day. You can have all the possession in the world, but if it's in your own half, it doesn't threaten anyone. And Saturday, we were brilliant. We were really, really good against a really good Ipswich side that I backed on this podcast, excuse me, last week to get into the playoffs with the Paul Cook announcement. I'm not so sure now. I'm not saying they're not going to pick up, and they've got a massive one, I think, this week, haven't they? We'll get onto that. But for a side that's got aspirations in the top 6, we beat them pretty comfortably. And even the goal that they scored for me shouldn't have happened because it wasn't a foul in the build-up. It was never a free. You watched it, I think, Tom. I don't know what your thoughts were on it. For me, Tommy O'Connor got all the ball.
Yeah, just touching upon that before we talk about Ipswich's goal, I comfortably could say you look like a playoff side. And like I said, it's probably a good game that I've picked to watch. As you said, it's probably the best performance of the season. But I think the way you control the midfield, you said Graham didn't have his best game. He's still decent, but didn't have his best game. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch. And for Dean Oliver, Jesus, he was immense, and he was an absolute joy to watch. We talked about Joe Pigott on Saturday on the Seasiders pod. I think Wimbledon are where they are. He still scored 15 goals or 12 goals, whatever it is. And he was just one of these players where you think you could probably do it in the Championship. And watching for Dean Oliver, he could comfortably say he can work that line in any team, really. He was phenomenal, and you were a joy to watch.
No, can't disagree, and it's good to see. It's nice to hear fans of other clubs say that because we get this thing levelled at us that we're direct and we're long ball and we can only play one way. But I think you watched it, and the second goal is as good a counter-attacking goal as you're going to see this weekend, and that's not just in League One. That's anywhere in England. It was a phenomenal goal. The break, I think Ryan Jackson pinches it, plays a ball up the line. Dempsey, Jordan Graham link up. Dempsey carries on his run when he could have stopped and just ball watched and admired his pass. And then I think for Dane Oliver he's literally on the edge of his own box when we start the move. and he's the one that meets it on the penalty spot and smashes it home. And yeah, really nice to watch and good to see that we mixed it up and to sort of prove to some people that we can play more than one way, and we've got more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak.
I think Paul's comments after the game were quite direct, and he was pretty peeved, I think. So we'll have to see how Ipswich sort of get on, but
at least he was gracious in defeat. There's been a couple of managers that have lost to little old Gillingham this season and come out and blamed everyone but themselves. The referee, Lee Bowyer, being a prime example, bless him. It's never his fault. It's always the linesman, the groundsman, the weather forecaster, and I don't know, Boris Johnson. You know. But yeah, I thought Paul Cook's interview was absolutely spot on. He come out, he said that, you know, they weren't good enough. Gillingham deserved it. We did what we wanted to do better than they wanted to do, and ultimately that's what we won the football match for. So, but Ipswich will be fine, and if they've got him in charge, they'll be absolutely fine, and they'll get out of this division sooner rather than later with him at the helm.
Ben, rest of Saturday's results?
Yeah, and Blackpool, again, another late goal, Tom. Again, will that cost Blackpool later on, like down the line? At the moment, I think they're averaging 1.55 points per game, which is decent, but we need to be averaging more. I think they'd be ninth if at the end of the season, if they carried on that route. They've got a lot of games in hand, so they need to start winning. But again, I think they're 11 unbeaten at home, not lost at home this year as well, so decent result that way. Burton Albion, again, they just keep fighting, don't they? The 4 clear the relegation zone now. I love Dino and I love Jimmy Floyd Aspect, what they've done there. I think our Twitter account's got to be called the Burton Albion account because we tweet about it every Tuesday and Saturday, a new stat, because, you know, 7 wins out of 9 for a side that are 13 points for like 10 points adrift, won 2 games all season. And, you know, they hadn't kept a clean sheet at home for over a year. And to this now, how it looks stable, and the fans are brought in board, and you see the players after the game, they're hugging at the assistant and the manager. It's just so good to see Burton back on that. I know we've got a few Burton Albion fans in the chat. Doncaster Rovers, again, 2 wins from 2. Butler going in there, doing a very good job. Hull 2-0, they're flying at the moment. 4 wins from 6, a draw in there as well. Mike Wilkes is scoring for fun. He's got a few goals. I think he's on 16 goals and 2 assists, so 4 goals and 2 assists in the last 6, so he's contributing very heavily. Lincoln back to winning ways against Crewe. Again, only 1 win in 6 of Crewe, and that's not something you'd maybe associate with a Dave Artell side. But, you know, I still think they'll be okay this year in League One. Northampton, unbelievable performance. 2 wins, nearly out of the relegation zone, so I think they'll be okay as well. Oxford, again, back-to-back 0-0s. Charlton really struggling now, aren't they? Shrewsbury 0, Fleetwood 2, great result. Really love that game, and didn't think we were any good, but you know, two goals, clean sheet. We'll take them all day, really. And Sunderland, we've discussed it early on in the pod. Rochdale haven't scored in 6 games now. That's a worry. 1 goal in 8. That came in a 4-1 defeat to MK Dons. So you know, the bottom of the pile, they're averaging about 39 points a season, which would be about 9 or 10 points below what they need. So a lot of interesting results.
Jimmy, anything that stands out for you
No.
in the results?
The one thing I would, well, obviously the thing that stands out is Northampton. Like, where on earth did that come from? Like, we played them. It was just after our 3 weeks off from COVID, and we were there for the taking. We looked like a team that hadn't trained in a month, and it was just the most boring 0-0. And I remember thinking, my God, this Northampton team doesn't have much talent. Like they were trying really hard and they just had nothing in the final third. So for them to score 4 against anyone really, really sort of shocked me.
They are out the relegation zone now, aren't they? And I think looking at what was I watching? Yeah, the Wimbledon game, sorry, on Saturday, and I looked down at the current results and it was 3-0, and I just went, huh? And I was fully expecting the breaking news this weekend to be Kenny Jackett, because after his press match conference on Tuesday, when he said, I think the boys did really well to put in the effort they did, it was just not the comments.
A good way to lose.
Yeah, so exactly what he said. Sorry, yeah, a good way to lose if we were going to lose any match. And you just think, this is Portsmouth. You know,
I heard that before. You can't
if
say
you go,
that. Oh
well,
my God.
He did, and they got absolutely ruined the next game. And I think either the players are doing it on purpose to get him gone, or they are that poor. I think when we played him, it was, we beat him 1-0 late goal from Jerry Yates, but it was quite not rubbish game as such, but they, for a Portsmouth side to be at home and not have any attack and threat, they just didn't really bother us, to be fair. So, as Ben sort of alluded to earlier, I think his time's up. If it's not this tomorrow, if they don't win, it's going to be Saturday, in my opinion. I don't know what you found from Saturday and Tuesday, Matt, in terms of results. Anything that sticks out for you? For me, say Northampton and Burton, they take all the plaudits, but anything else that stands out?
Yeah, I've wrote 3 or 4 from each of the set of results. I've got Northampton in both, obviously beating Plymouth 2-0, been in a decent run, beat Pompey 4-1. I've got Fleetwood's result at Lincoln. After Ben's comments, we all thought that was going to about 10-0, didn't we, to Lincoln? But what does Ben know? No, great result for Fleetwood after a tricky patch, and they backed it up at the weekend as well. So they're on my list of good sides at the moment. Doncaster, I said last week, I feared for them. I thought they might slide out the playoff race after Darren Moore's gone. They've won 2 out of 2. So what do I know? This is why we sit on a podcast and these people get employed to run football clubs. Yeah, Gills Saturday, if I'm going to be biased, I thought that was one of the results of the day. Until you find Burton again, who just keep pulling rabbits out of hats at the moment, don't they? Went and beat a really good Peterborough side who've only picked up 1 point in 2 games since I said they'd probably run away with the title on this podcast last week. So I think I'll just shut up now. But yeah, so really good. So for me, probably Donny and Burton, the 2 standouts, and Northampton and Portsmouth are in the other way, and Rochdale are in just absolute free fall. I think it's probably too late now for Rochdale. Unfortunately, there was that patch where they were scoring loads and conceding loads, but now they're still conceding plenty and not scoring at all. So I think they've pretty much gone.
Exactly, Matt. I agree. And I was looking back at Rochdale's form, actually. Charlton at home lost 2-0. MK Dons at home lost 4-1. Blackpool away lost 1-0. Plymouth 0-0. Northampton 0-0. Maybe should be getting a win out of those 2, really. Burton at home, they lost 2-0. Hull away lost 2-0. Sunderland away lost 2-0. Next 3 games don't get any, easier. Shrewsbury at home, good side, improving, but a couple of defeats away. Then they got Lincoln away and Peterborough at home. We've only lost 1 game at home this season. But then they have got Wimbledon and Swindon coming up. So you'd say if you are going to get out of it, they're your results. But yeah, Barry Murphy's been there before. He kept them up a few years ago when he went on an unbelievable 5-match winning streak. But I can't see Rochdale staying up this season. For me, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Rochdale are going down.
They were weirdly good against us. I know we're short on time, but I was surprised how good they were on Saturday. Like, they played for our press really easily at 1-0. I think second half they lost their confidence. It was nothing happened, but like some of their midfielders, Barr on the wing was a real problem for us. And I was surprised that they'd only scored 1 goal in 8 games because they looked capable, but maybe that was them raising their level. A trip to the Stadium of Light, I don't know, but I was surprised at how badly they'd been doing before playing us, considering how they performed on Saturday.
Yeah, we're going to take after those sort of set of results, we're going to take 2 minutes look at the table, then a quick look at the form guide before we've got some questions. So, table here, Hull sitting, say, pretty at top. They've got 2 games more than the teams below them. Ben, I don't know if you want to go through, or Matt, go through sort of what your thoughts are after the last 2 sort of set of results.
I'll let Matt do this one.
Yeah, Hull have responded well. They had a sticky patch, didn't they, a few weeks ago? They've responded well again. They're getting people back fit as well. I think our former striker Tom Eaves is fit and playing again now, so he'll give them a boost because it gives competition to Josh McGuinness. Peterborough, I still think will be there or thereabouts. I don't think they're going to implode like they normally do. And to ruin Jimmy's season or make his night, depending on which way you take what I say. I still back Sunderland to get into the top 2 now. I think Lee Johnson's got them playing the right way. They're playing with confidence. They're scoring goals. At the other end, they look pretty solid. And as Jimmy's mentioned, they've not got a full quota of defenders available for selection at the moment. So you'd imagine they're only going to be stronger when they come back, the likes of Wright and Flanagan that Jimmy's mentioned. And Lincoln have been a bit in and out. Doncaster, despite the good reaction, I'm still not sure they'll see it through. It'd be interesting to see how Andy Butler reacts if they do have a poor result or a poor run. Portsmouth, I can't see going any higher than where they are. It'd take a big turnaround for me for them to even entertain the top 2. Accrington have had a great season, but I just don't think the squad's big enough. A couple of injuries, they could drop out. Ipswich, we have to see. We've got to give Paul Cook time. Charlton's home form's killing them. Oxford probably got a bit to do, but have got games in hand. Gills, possibility rather than a probability. Blackpool depends on winning their games in hand, and I think from probably them downwards, you'd probably say Crewe, Plymouth, Fleetwood, MK Dons are all absolutely fine, but not got a lot to play for. And Shrewsbury are probably one win away from being safe, and Burton, I think, could end up sneaking into, sort of top 14. So I think that the battle for relegations between Northampton downwards, and I'm not going to change my mind in terms of who I said last week that were going to go down, but don't ask me because I can't remember who I said. I will back. It's a good job I keep everything, isn't it? I had to refer to it last week. I'm sticking with who I said. Rochdale, Wimbledon, Northampton. Oh no, I changed it, didn't I? I had Shrewsbury start of the season, but that was before they sacked Ricketts, wasn't it? So, Wigan, yeah. So I'm still sticking with Wigan, Northampton. No, I'm not. I haven't got a clue. Move on. I'm sure. No, I've got Wimbledon in there as well. I had Wimbledon, didn't I go down, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wigan, Wimbledon,
but
Northampton and Rochdale. Yeah, sorry.
We've learned not to listen to what you said, but probably one of those teams are going to make late charge for the playoffs after last week's predictions from us all. So
that's it, yeah. Fleetwood will win the league, Gills will get relegated, Burton will get in the playoffs, and Sunderland will go down.
We look at the form guide. I put some notes here. I just put Sunderland, wow, Burton absolutely flying. Ipswich and Aki had a really mixed week, both picking up opposite sort of results on Saturday and Tuesday. Gillingham picking up. Blackpool frustrated with 2 draws. Donny find their feet after Darren Moore left. Is that rejuvenated him? I don't know. Pompey, time for Kenny Jackett to go. And the fans are not happy. Bristol Rovers, are they in trouble? I know everyone was really excited about Joey Barton sort of coming in, but 2 bad results and they looked really poor against Hull in terms of the goals they conceded. Or do you think they'll be all right? I'm not too sure. And Northampton, just a quick note to them. We've already discussed it, but they're in 8th in the form guide. Jimmy, in terms of who's there, I know you're sitting pretty on the top, but anyone sort of surprised you? Or
I think the mad thing is that you look at Burton's form and the only thing that stopped them getting maximum points was their game against us. And once again, that was a game where, I mean, we deserved to win. We won it quite comfortably in the end, but they looked good. And like Hasselbank's enthusiasm on the touchline is just something else. I remember him clapping at one of his wingers at like 2-0 down when they've got 10 men to just keep going. And you can just tell that he's galvanized the group. And it is, I'm just sort of looking at that in shock that they've been so good after looking so terrible really at the start of the year.
I called this last week. We said, and Ben sort of said he made his predictions for the playoffs, and so did Matt. I just can't call it. I mean, Blackpool are 5th, but 2 frustrating draws, and their games in hand are not against easy teams. And we were meant to play Burton about 72 times. They've been postponed every single time because of Jimmy pointing out bits of the ground, and maybe he needed that time to rejuvenate his squad because what a job he's done. And if that was the reason, then fair enough. But they look flying. Do I want to play Burton now? Not really, the way we are at home, and they're just going to come and attack us, and we need to react to that. And we've got Sunderland to play twice, and that's obviously not easy. So we need to start picking up results. And then you've got teams like Ipswich, Gills, Portsmouth sort of faltering. So anyone can make those playoffs, really, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the best thing with League One. How many teams can go in the playoffs? I reckon anywhere up from Blackpool can get in. Blackpool and be above, really. I just think Blackpool need to go on a good run. I felt before the 2 games that they had, they could afford to lose maybe 1. Now they probably need to win most of the games in hand, which is going to be difficult. They play every 3 days, don't they? Season ends 8 weeks on Saturday, and they've got to fit a lot of games in there. And Oxford, they're not winning games, but they're not losing games, 2-0 nils. And then you've got, your Sunderlands, your Hulls, your Peterboroughs, and then, like Matt said, you've got your Plymouth Argyles, Fleetwoods, MK Dons, Crews, that probably will be safe. It'll be okay. I reckon it's going to be between 9 or 10 teams to get into the playoffs. And I still believe it'll be between Blackpool and Ipswich for the last playoff spot.
Yeah. Jimmy has just asked what the hell is going on with Charlton, and I think Matt can back me up here. We'll move on just after this. But for me, when we played them, they were, to put it bluntly, they were dog shit. They were at home. They didn't care. They didn't want to close us down. They didn't want to chase the ball. They didn't know what system they were playing. And then after the game, and I thought, Matt sort of agreed with me on Twitter as well. We talked about it. Bowyer went on and just went It wasn't my fault. It wasn't the system. The refs had a mare because two of their players got sent off. I mean, it was it was Anike. Sorry, it was rescinded because it was an elbow to the face. But the Darren Pratley grabbed Gabriel around the neck on a yellow card, and he said it wasn't another yellow, and they were awful. I mean, Virtue's hit a 25-yard shot, but there was no players around him, and we got to play tippy-tappy ball before it while they all just stood there like that watching it. And I think he doesn't know his best 11. Their system isn't worked out very well, and their home form. What is it now? They haven't won in
6 points from the last 10 games. I've just got it up. Yeah,
I
think it's something ridiculous, like 8 games on the spin at the Valley. They've conceded twice or more.
Yeah,
so you're not going to win football matches doing that.
And won 7.
Yeah, well, they went to Oxford Saturday and they missed literally a night. The whistle went after. I think the penalty was missed, so that a bit of kick in the teeth. But for me, I don't think they're good enough for the playoffs now. So we'll take a look at sort of who they've got tomorrow and everyone else has got with the fixtures. If we just get them up on the screen.
Yep.
Run through them. We'll give our thoughts on sort of each one very quickly. So AFC Wimbledon and Burton, for me, Wimbledon on Saturday were brilliant. Piggott was brilliant. They had lots of energy about them and they pressured us and played like the home side. So I was really impressed with Wimbledon. I owed them an apology. I said on the Seasiders pod we'll probably win 2 or 3-0. We weren't up to the races and they were very decent, and they're playing an informed Burton side.
Away win for me.
Yeah. I'm still probably going to say Burton edge it just on the form that they've got. Matt, your prediction?
Yeah, away win. I've wrote them all down. I'm going to say 2-0 Burton. They're absolutely flying at the moment.
Jimmy, predictions on the next game?
Oh, the next game. That's, God knows, that's a must win for Joey Barton. So I'll go for Accrington because I don't like Joey Barton.
Ben, Charlton?
0-0.
Oh,
wow, really?
Oh.
No goals.
Northampton on a good run. I think if you offered Cobblers a point, they'd take 7 points out of the last 9 games. You know, I think they would really take out Plymouth, Argyle, Portsmouth, and Charlton. It'd be a great week for them. I'm going to go 0-0. They're going to frustrate. And I'm saying this now, Bowyer will get sacked after the game.
They just beat Portsmouth 4-1, and you're saying no goals for Watson, who's got 5 and 6.
And I've just said that Charlton have conceded twice, 8 games in a row at the Valley.
Ben, if it's 0-0, I'll buy you a match pass, mate. I've given nothing away this week. So, Crew Donny, I'm going to go draw. But I don't know what your thoughts are. I think it'll be a really decent game.
Yeah, I've got 1-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went 2-0 for that one.
2-0, yeah. So draws all around. Jimmy, what do you think of Ipswich Lincoln? It's a huge match for me. Lincoln out of form and Ipswich with a frustrating loss on Saturday.
Matt talked about the new manager bounce myth earlier. I'm going to buy into the myth. I'm going to go for Paul Cook to do Lincoln. They've sort of been faltering a bit. I've been watching with glee as Lincoln have started to drop points. I'm going to pray they're going to drop some more.
Matt, can you do the MK Dons game for me? Because I don't want to predict it live on air.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 Blackpool. I think they'll win that. MK Dons have had a couple of rough results, got absolutely battered by Wigan at the weekend, who I still think are getting relegated. So for me, I think you should have it. If you want to get in the playoffs, you've got to win it, and I think you'll nick it.
Peterborough to nick this one for me, 2-1. Ben, Plymouth?
2-0 Plymouth. I fancy him. Wigan are still fighting, to be fair to them, but I fancy a Plymouth win. They've been on a not so good run after a good run, so 2-0 Plymouth.
Matt, Rochdale?
1-0 Shrewsbury.
Okay. Swindon, Oxford. I am going to go 2-0 Oxford.
You better do the next one as well, Tom or Jimmy.
Yeah, no, Jimmy. No, I'm going to give this one to Jimmy. That's why I saved him.
I'm tempted to say score draw. Yeah, I'm going to sit on the fence. Score draw.
The last couple of results against Gillingham at home have been score draw. I think 1-1 last year, 1-1 the season before. So we do like a good draw against Gillingham at home.
Just to wind Ben up a little bit, I'm going to say Gillingham are flying a bit more than Fleetwood are with the way they played, and I'm going to predict a 2-1 win for the Gills.
Cheers,
Ben,
Tom.
you can finish the Portsmouth. We've got you Saturday, mate. I've got to wind you up somehow. Portsmouth, Sunderland. I'll leave that one for you, Matt, and I'll let Jimmy sort of think about your prediction.
I think looking at the form, looking at the fact that there's a question mark over whether the players want to play for Kenny Jackett anymore. Sunderland are flying. I'm going to go 2-1 Sunderland.
Yep. Jimmy, your quick prediction on that one live on air?
Praying for a win. Still very fearful of Portsmouth, but if they're waiting to sack their manager, maybe we nick it 1-0.
Okay, we're going to quickly finish up. Jimmy, I know I'll prompt you for this question. We've got about a minute or two left. So your best team you've seen this season, and why?
This is the great irony. The only team that have really outclassed us from minute 1 to minute 90 was our home fixture, reverse fixture with Portsmouth. They beat us 3-1. They beat us really easily. They outworked us. They outplayed us. Their press was better than ours. They're the best team I've seen this season, which is why I'm so happy to hear you all say that it's gone to pot, really. But they're easily the best team that at least based on performances against Sunderland.
And the all-important question, the worst team and why?
I went for Northampton. It was really difficult because a lot of the teams that have been rubbish when they played Sunderland are teams like Burton, teams like Wigan. It feels a bit sour to say Wigan because they beat us 1-0 with one shot. But yeah, I went for Northampton just because they had nothing in attack. And Burton, although they were very bad against us at the Stadium of Light, were much better under Hasselbank when we played them at their place.
Awesome. Yeah, fair enough. We've got Saturday's fixtures to go through as well, just very quickly. We'll just take a quick look at them before we say our goodbyes. Some big matches there, all important. Fleetwood, obviously their biggest game of the season. Blackpool's smallest one. So you've got Swindon. I see 4 wins or 5 wins in a row for you, Gills. I think you're going to get 2 away wins in a row. That's just me sort of guessing.
You're right. Then I'll start believing a little bit. If we can pick up 6 points this week, we could be right in amongst it. But then we got to go Lincoln next Tuesday, and that'll be a huge game. So.
2 seconds on each one. I'll rattle through them. Your result for your Swindon match, Matt. 2 seconds. Let's go.
2-1 Gills.
Ben, Fleetwood.
2-0 Blackpool.
Jimmy, Bristol Rovers.
1-0 Wimbledon.
I'm going to go 2-1 to Charlton after they sacked Bowyer. Crew, Matt.
1-0.
Doncaster, Ben.
2-0 Donny.
Hull, Jimmy.
I'll go 1-0 Oxford.
Okay. I'll go 2-0 Ipswich. Lincoln, Matt.
3-0 Lincoln.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. MK Dons, Accrington. Ben to finish off.
1-0 Aki, set piece, header.
Fair enough. Well, that concludes today's show. We just ticked over the hour mark. Thank you so much, everyone, for getting your comments in. Please like and subscribe to the Seasiders podcast. They are hosting the third tier show. The YouTube channel for the third tier will be launching tomorrow with the best bits of today's show. So please like and subscribe when we tweet that out. And that leaves me to say our goodbyes. First and foremost, it's Jimmy. Thank you so much for coming on and give us some insight, some really interesting insight on the Roker Report and your army of workers.
Yeah, no problem at all. Really enjoyed it. Really impressed.
Thank you very much. Ben, big game for you two tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming on, and I look forward to seeing your reaction show of Gillingham nicking a win.
Cheers, Tom. Appreciate that. I know all I want to say is, Matt said last week I won't be able to come on next season when we go down, and you said we're going to get hammered by Lincoln and then hammered by Shrewsbury. Well, won. So if you could say that we'll lose 2 games this week, that'll do well, Thomas. Thank you.
To be fair, you said you were going to lose as well.
Yeah, I did.
And Matt, I saved the best till last because you had the best performance in terms of football and games this weekend against Ipswich. So thanks very much for coming on.
Pleasure again. Really enjoyed it again.
Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you the same time next week for the third tier show. Good night.